Hello scaredy cats, it's me, Scaredy Matt. Remember when you were a kid and summers seemed to last forever? Running through sprinklers, barbecuing, getting into all sorts of trouble with all the kids in the neighborhood. Well, you're not a kid anymore, you're an adult! And if you get too obsessed with your own past, you're going to end up like Phantasm IV, OBLIVION! A movie that exists to remind you of all of the previous movies you liked in the franchise. Welcome back to Summer Phantasm, where we chill out in the summer sun and soak up a little bit of that Phantasm vibe. Phantasm is a notoriously summery franchise. Don't know how to make that more clear than I already have. I don't know how people don't see it yet. I feel like I've talked about 3 of these movies already. You should by now understand that they're summer movies. They're summer movies, it's summertime, that's why we're talking about Phantasm. It's 28 degrees in the room that I'm filming this in right now. That sucks. Summer is starting to suck, but we still have Phantasm, don't we? Phantasm IV, Oblivion, was made as a stopgap movie to raise funds for the movie they really wanted to make, Phantasm 1999 AD, or Phantasm's End, a post-apocalyptic road trip buddy comedy that would have seen Reggie Bannister team up with Bruce Campbell. They scraped together enough money to make Phantasm IV Oblivion, but ultimately failed to secure funding for Phantasm's End, the movie that I would give anything to see. And when I say they secured funding for this movie, I'm being very generous. They secured about $650,000, more than twice the budget of the original, but also 19 years later, so the money was actually worth less. Go figure. Brilliantly, to get around budget limitations, they repurposed footage from previous entries in the franchise that had not yet been previously released, seamlessly blending in shots of the characters from 20 years ago, as though they'd filmed that just for this movie. Not so brilliantly, they also had their actors fuck around in the desert for most of the movie because they didn't want to build sets. Hope you like deserts. A lot of deserts in this one. I'm also obliged to inform you that a dog is killed in this movie. It's hit by a car off screen, the tall man is driving it in one of the flashbacks. You hear a sad dog noise? Now you know, I have fulfilled my duty to you. We open on Mike, who has recently become a sphere, and he's driving around thinking about stuff, just trying to get his head right, you know? Sometimes when you become a sphere, it's hard to deal with. Also, there's a Slender Man in his car, don't worry about that. Also, the witch from the first movie makes an appearance. Or does she? More on that later. We cut back to Reggie, who's still pinned to the wall by those dang dastardly spheres. Tall Man lets him go because the final game has now begun. Cool. Cool writing. He just lets him go for some reason. Now I bet you're wondering what happened to Tim, right? At the end of the previous movie, he got grabbed by the ghoulies like Mike did at the end of the first movie. So what's happening to Tim? Well, Reggie drives into the desert and meets up with Jody Ball, and they argue. Jody Ball's like, yo, Mike needs help, and Reggie's like, nah, fuck it, I'm done fighting the tall man. You guys, that sucks, fuck you. And Jody Ball leaves, and then Reggie's like, well, gotta go follow him so that I can keep fighting the tall man like I like to do. Tall Man climbs out of a portal in the coffin of the back of Mike's car and takes control of the vehicle with his mind. Mike can't escape, he tries kicking the window until he can't break it. Tall Man's goal in this movie, and possibly all of the other movies, is to make Mike one of his kind, into a tall man. What that means and why he wants it is left vague. So Mike gets trapped where else? In the desert, and he's like, okay, fuck this. If the tall man wants to grab me, I'm gonna kill myself, whatever. But the tall man's like, yo, nuh-uh, you can't. And he sends Mike's mind back in time, where Mike meets the tall man before he became the tall man. I mean, he's still tall, but he's not an evil alien yet. His name is Jebediah Morningside, get it? Like the mortuary from the first movie, Morningside. And his whole thing is trying to reach out to new dimensions to learn the secrets of life and death because he got so twisted up from being a mortician. So he invented a steampunk machine that acts like a big tuning fork to make contact with other dimensions. And here's Mike, a being from another dimension, and Jeb's so happy to see him, he just wants to give him some of this curiously transparent lemonade. That's just water with lemons floating in it. You gotta squeeze the lemons. But Mike is spooked and runs away because the fortune teller is there. Ah! Ah! And the fortune teller is Jebediah's mom? What? What? Why? So he returns to the desert, and he's pissed that the tall man wants to dress him up like a little dolly, so he learns telekinesis as an act of revenge. Jody Ball shows up while Mike is doing something mysterious to the engine of his car, but they don't get along anymore because Mike is mad that Jody abandoned him when he was murdered and had his brain stuffed into a little sphere. That was abandonment, Mike has decided, even though he didn't feel that way in the previous film. Just pick that up out of nowhere, out of the blue between movies. That's fine. Of course you're going to be mad at your brother for coming back from the dead after being murdered. Okay, Reggie's driving around and he spies a hot lady, and folks, you know what that means. Later, they're smiling at each other, and then the lady, Jennifer, swerves out of the way to avoid hitting a turtle, and her car flips over. And Reggie knows how that is, having been in a flipped over car in Phantasm II, so he helps her out. The car explodes, and Jennifer is stuck with horny old Reggie as they drive across the desert looking for a town to drop her off in. There's also a fight with the demon cop. It's too boring to talk about. Anyway, they can't find a town with people in it, so Reggie hornfully decides to spend the rest of the night at an abandoned motel. Jennifer, of course, rebuffs his clumsy advances, but when she falls asleep, Reggie notices her shirt is moving around and making buzzing noises. Now folks, I want you to stop here and ask yourself one question. What's the best possible thing that could happen in this scene? Because no matter what you think it is, it's better. I don't know if I'm allowed to show this on YouTube, but I have to. That's right, she's got boob spears. The ball is back, everybody. Just when you think this franchise is out of ideas, they surprise you with something like that. A dumber idea than you'd think they'd ever do. You didn't expect sphere tits. How ironic, Reggie. The very thing you desired is now poised to kill you. That says a lot. It says a lot about society. So one boob stabs Reggie's hand, and he grabs his tuning fork that he had because he brought his guitar, and the sound of it deactivates the spheres, so lucky for him, I guess, that he even thought to do that for some reason. So he crushes up Jennifer's skull and heads out to, you guessed it, the desert. In a montage, Reggie gathers his weapons, including his signature 4-barrel shotgun, and changes into his ice cream man uniform for some reason. And when I saw him do this, I literally stood up in my seat and screamed, "Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah!" I got so excited by this, even though I've seen the movie before and I knew it was coming, but I couldn't help it. He put on the clothes, the ice cream clothes. Can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that Reggie Bannister, of all people, has become an action star in these movies? Like this short little guy who's bald and has a ponytail, like the wildest skullet you've ever seen, whose like most badass thing to do is change into an ice cream man uniform. It's the hero, the gun-toting badass of this movie that rules, that owns so much. It gives these movies a sense of personality that they just never lose, and I'm always happy to see him. Mike and Jody Ball apparate from a tuning fork. Mike and Reggie hug, and Mike's like, yo, don't trust my brother, the ball. And Reggie's like, here's a tuning fork. No explanation required for why I'm giving it to you. You know what to do with this tuning fork, right? Mike and Jody want to go back and stop the tall man from ever existing, so they take a dimensional fork back in time to peep on Jeb. And Mike tries to stab him with a big knife, but they're playing by Christmas Carol rules and can't change nothing. Jeb leaves, and enter Tall Man, baby! Tall Man can see them though, so they skedaddle to a graveyard where Mike attacks Jody, and it turns out Jody is evil, and then kidnaps Mike and holds him down while Tall Man tries to cut open his skull. Mike uses the tuning fork, and that temporarily stops the Tall Man and Jody Ball, and then the Tall Man takes the tuning fork, and Jody's like, yo, sorry bro, so I guess he wasn't evil? I'm unclear about this. Tall Man comes around, disables Reggie's gun, and guess what, motherfucker? Guess what? You're not the only one with spears, butthole. Mike has a spear, and it's useless. But also, he makes the car explode with his mind, I guess? None of that matters. Tall Man immediately comes back and takes the spear out of Mike's brain. Reggie follows him through the fork, and the movie ends on a flashback to Mike and Reggie riding on Reggie's ice cream truck. I cannot express to you how long it felt watching this movie. It was a confusing, horribly paced waste of time. Phantasm IV, Oblivion, brings nothing new to the table. It's more of the same, literally in a lot of cases, because it's just recycled footage shot for other, better movies. Its one trick is to remind you of the fun you've had so far with the franchise, to make you look back fondly on previous Phantasm movies. But guys, I could watch those movies again if I wanted to re-experience them. Despite the creative bankruptcy driving this franchise forward, I'm still enjoying them. I like seeing all the weird, messy, and goofy choices they make. I like that each movie introduces new ideas that each following movie completely abandons in favor of the next shiny new thing. I like seeing these unlikely heroes battling a genuinely cool villain, because say what you will, Scrim fucking delivers. Scrim isn't cashing a check, he's knocking it out of the goddamn park in each and every scene. Coming up next week, we have the final Phantasm movie, Phantasm Ravager. I have not heard good things. I hope that they can give this series a proper send-off, but more than anything, I just hope that they can surprise me a little bit. It's sad to see a series that started off so inventive backslide into formulaic schlock. I want new, creative schlock. It's the middle of July. I need these movies to get better so I can enjoy my summer. I just need it. I can't enjoy my summer if the movies I'm watching to get me in the summer spirit are dragging like this. Help me enjoy my summer, Phantasm IV. Please, it's so hot. It's so fucking hot in Toronto right now. Just be a good movie. Thanks for watching this movie on The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please press the like button and subscribe for more videos every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time about horror movies. Sorry for those of you sitting in the splash zone.